Hello, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of Team Avatar and my Avatar to Day 6 of Diversity Mahotsav 2024. I am Rashmi Ravindran and I will be moderating this session today. As we start, here are a few hygiene checks for a seamless virtual experience. Please close all other applications on your computer and log out from your organization's VPN to conserve internet bandwidth. We would like to thank our partners, Innovation Catalyst, EPAM Systems, supporting partners, CRISIL, Genesis, and Zuki Systems. Our social media hashtags are hashtag Diversity Mahotsav and hashtag Celebrating Diversity. Do post your experience at Diversity Mahotsav on your social media handles with these hashtags. I would also like to inform you that all the Diversity Mahotsav episodes are being live streamed on our YouTube channel. Click on the link that is posted on the chat window to view the same. My dear participants, welcome to Diversity Mahotsav, where the spotlight shines not only on diversity, equity, and inclusion, but on the very essence of what it means to celebrate our human kaleidoscope. Diversity Mahotsav is about you, our audience. Whether you're here seeking inspiration, mentorship, or that one opportunity to launch your career, remember this: your potential is limitless and your voice matters. Today, we have a very interesting session, a panel discussion on the topic setting boundaries, prioritizing mental health and well being for women. It's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panel here today. We have with us three amazing women professionals. Uh, let's start with Ms. Vanita Agarwal, lead digital engagement practice at EPAM Systems. Vanita, with 21 plus years in IT, leads EPAM India's digital engagement practice and serves as Bangalore site head. She excels in digital strategy, partnering with top platforms like SAP and Salesforce, and delivering enterprise solutions aligned with trends like omnichannel and composable tech. Passionate about sustainability, she enjoys traveling, reading, and CSR initiatives. Welcome, Vanita. We have also Ms. Sandhya Ramesh, Senior Director, Human Resources at Aptiv. Sandhya, with over 20 plus years of experience, has worked with organizations like HCL, Cognizant, Walmart Global Tech, and Aptiv. A BITS Pilani alumna, she has expertise in HR business partnering, workforce planning, leadership development, and internal communications. A certified DEI professional, Sandhya is passionate about holistic well being, especially for women in the workforce. Welcome, Sandhya. And we also have Dr. Uttara Sridhar, guest professor at BITS Pilani and counseling psychologist. She has 11 plus years of experience and is an honorary doctorate recipient for contributing to psychology. Actively involved in social service through her NGO, Upakarya. She supports underprivileged and special needs children. With multiple certifications from Stanford and expertise in areas like mental health, child psychology, and Ayurveda, she is working to establish a safe space for mental health support. Welcome, Dr. Rutra. It's my pleasure to have all of you here today. And let's begin this conversation. Looking forward to some solutions emerging from this discussion, which will serve our audience here today. So, welcome, everyone. Thank you. To set the context for our audience, today's women professional seems to have it all, isn't it? A career, a home, access to growth, both professionally and personally. One of the best times for a woman to have aspirations, one might say. But is it as good as it looks, right? Here are some statistics for all of us to digest. According to the Emotional Wellness State of Employees survey conducted on 5,000 professionals in India by a mental health platform, it revealed that 72.2% of female respondents reported high stress levels compared to 53.6% of male participants. Before I begin the questions, I would like all of you to probably say a hello to our audience. and then we'll get into the questions. Over to you, Sandhya, Vanita, and Dr. Rutra.
Hi. Thanks. Thank you so much, Rashmi, and to Avtar for this incredible opportunity. This topic is something which is very, very close to my heart, and I appreciate the opportunity to actually have a point of view and share my experiences and learn from some of the experiences that I'm sure I'm going to hear from Dr. Rutra and Ms. Vanita too. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sandhya.
Sandhya.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this session. I look forward to talking to you. And like Sandhya said, right, we've been like, 25 years in the industry. So we've seen that we've tackled some of that, some well, some not so well. Please feel free to ask questions when the time permits, and look forward to the insights that the panel brings to this discussion. Thank you,
Thank you, Vanita.
Dr. Utra.
So, good evening, everybody. It's a wonderful opportunity. Thank you. And yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm sure there is going to be a lot of you talking and me less of me talking here. So it's going to, I just want to start with you, Sandhya. Like I said, being a HR leader, and the statistics saying what it did, right? Female respondents reporting higher stress levels compared to the male respondents in that particular survey. How do you see it amongst your women employees in your organization? And what do you as an organization do about it? I'm assuming that that's true of it. First of all, if you could just let us know if that is the case.
Sure. I think the Indian woman is really absolutely no stranger to stress and certainly not to boundaries. Starting from our mythological Ramayana, where the Lakshman Rekha that women always had to toe their line to. I think from the time we are young, there are lots of reasons and lots of ways through which there are boundaries that seem to be encompassing Indian women. But in my personal journey, both as a woman professional in the Indian workforce and also as a HR colleague, helping a lot of women employees through the course of my career, one of the things that I have really learned about both boundaries and today's topic, important topic of boundaries and how do we really prioritize mental health, is that I think it's very important to understand that it is a very personal journey for each and every person, right? And we usually break down careers of women into three big buckets, right? So you have the early career professionals. Once you finish your education, you're just entering the workforce. What you want to accomplish, what you can accomplish, and what you know about what you can accomplish is very different from when you move to a middle level manager and then when you move into leadership positions. I think as a first step, it's very important for women to understand what they want, not in work, because today both work and personal life have become, what can I say? Integrated is also a very weak word. Both of them, you have to prioritize one over the other at different points of time. So it's important for women to not only understand what they want, but what actually truly brings them joy, right? And that will actually speaking help you understand what your boundaries are. That is step number one. As an organization, and I think it's important for us to realize that at the end of the day, organizations are institutions, right? Which are about building a certain product, making certain profits. They can put together frameworks, they can put together policies. Today, most of the organizations very intentionally try to build a nurturing environment and an understanding environment for women. Most organizations do that. I think we've been in this journey for a long time, especially, even in Aptiv. Aptiv has been here for 25 years. We have a bunch of really accomplished and talented women leaders. So there are two or three things which any organization can do. One is how can they really help their managers and train their managers on being sensitive to handling women employees, right? And their special needs at different points of time. That is one thing which organizations do. Two, I think most of the policies are pretty women friendly in many progressive organizations, whether it's about taking the necessary kind of breaks, whether it's about, very specific training and enablement, whether it is being very cautious and intentional about how are we really balancing performance potential and actually progressing women leaders, I think organizations have a pretty good framework to it. But what I would like to leave this audience with is that organizations can only do so much. Yes, we can put together processes. Yes, we can train people. But unless the Indian woman at the workplace really stands up, understands what she wants, and makes those demands in the right way, whether it's from the organization or in more cases than not from the ecosystem around her outside the organization, the ability to find the balance between the two is like very tough. Okay, because primarily women struggle with themselves and their identity, their priorities, and being okay with making one choice over the other, right? I think that's where we struggle, right? And
Yes.
I think it starts with really understanding what is important to you at that point of time, and so how do you navigate the ecosystem in a way which works for you, right? Than
Yes,
anything.
definitely agree there, Sandhya, that the organization and the ecosystem can only do so much. But yes, what can it do is a question we will keep exploring that as we go. But just taking that cue from you, saying that the boundaries have to be set by the women. I think that's what we're trying to say here through this discussion, where we want to empower the Indian woman professional, the term that you really like to from Avtar. So the actually to be able to see where her boundaries are, and where it becomes a burden and a stress for her, and where it really doesn't work if she keeps going on without setting that boundary. I think that is one thing we want to really see, and from all of your own personal experiences, that's what we want to actually take solutions to our audience today. So from that, Vanita, I would like to ask you, have you personally, I'm sure you have, and with the kind of stress that the work brings, I'm sure you have figured out a way of setting your boundaries with regard to work or with regard to personal relationships. It could be work at home. Could you give us an example, probably, of that inspiring moment? I hope you do remember that one inspiring aha moment where you did that for the first time, and set that boundary for the first time, and you found your freedom. But to tell us anything that you think is worth sharing with us today of your personal experience of setting that boundary,
Thank you,
Vanita?
Rashmi. I mean, I concur with Sandhya also, right? We have to set our own boundaries. However, sometimes today I feel that um, we are not able to prioritize when we need to set a boundary versus not. Small example is, uh, I have something very critical happening in the office, and I need to prioritize the office for those few days or few hours or few weeks. I will have to prioritize that. But I can easily switch back to saying, okay, now my priority is now my son's exams are going on. I need to teach them, right? The challenge that I see today is that when somebody, a woman, or office expectations is always prioritize office, home expectations is always prioritize expectations home, right? The women today don't switch. So there are some women who would just go and say, okay, I only want to prioritize office. Okay, everything is outsourced. Maybe I will even delay having babies, or I don't want babies, or everything is completely outsourced, right? On the other side, there are sometimes women, okay, my priority is my child, my family, my cooking, 100 other things that we do. And then there's a little bit of loss that happens on the organization side. To that guilt that we were talking about, right? The guilt of what happens if we do want to set boundaries, and something very peculiar has happened. There's a little bit of noise around our male colleagues now, that you've been given this extra bit of this policy favors women, or you've been given extra time to do something. So there's also that thing that while we are trying to prioritize our own areas of work, there is this guilt or some snide remarks coming from our colleagues who do not understand so much. Really, I've been through some of them, and when my child was born, I mean, at that time there was no 6 months of leave. I joined
Maternity.
back after 3 months, and maybe 3.5 months or so, and I was obviously not wanting to work uh, shifts, right? So when I went, and I was always working in the UK shift at the time. When I went back, I said, no, I need a change of my project. good thing for me was that my manager promised me within 3 months he would get that for me, because I went to the same project I was at that time. uh, and how I managed was with the support of my in-laws. Literally, there were times that I used to be sitting with my child at the reception, or my in-laws were carrying my child at the reception, and I was doing my work till the time I finished, because my son was like literally 6 months old, or 4 months, 5 months old at the time. So for me, I have learned, 2 or 3 major things of how to manage my work-life balance, right? You should not shy away from taking tough decisions. There are cases where your work-life balance cannot be sorted. I mean, the work demands too much. You have to take a call, leave the job, change the job, or you have to take a call to outsource somebody, trust other people to do some of your personal work. Second thing is, we don't have to shy away, because people will, probably say that you're taking advantage of a situation. And I've every time that I needed support from my in-laws, and a lot of times you don't want to take support from our ecosystem, like you said, right? Every time that I needed support, I asked for it. And it I think that really helped me. Even though there were times when I thought, okay, even after I've taken support from somebody, now that person is saying, oh, because of my support you've reached somewhere. I mean, so what? That's fine, right? I mean, why should I make it my ego issue or my pride that I can't take help from everybody? Really said and done today, we have this saying, right? Behind every man is a uh, supporting woman. So, what I mean, we've said that for long, we've managed that for long. Why are we shying away to say that our support from the ecosystem has helped us to grow, right? Some of these things, I think, in my personal life, I've learned from, and I have not taken a career break, leave that 1 3.5 month break that I did when I had my first child, and I only have one son. um, I have managed to keep that acceleration in my career path, because I've made use of every resource possible. And I've never gone into a situation where I've become depressed or overly anxious because, the work life balance is getting too much for me. I
Yeah.
think smartly, without thinking what people could say, or people could say that because of me you have reached there, we should just take support from wherever we can. At the end of the day, there are some things only a woman can do better. Like,
Yeah.
maybe kids is one example. Just take everything in your stride, but don't be how do I say, don't be unfair to your job. Don't be unfair to your family. Strike a balance. And if you need to take some decisions at the time, difficult decisions, leaving the job or outsourcing some of your personal stuff, do it. But make
Yeah.
peace with it. Don't always keep being in two minds. And something, I think, that is what need to change to Sandhya's point also, right? Women only create such situations sometimes
For
for
themselves.
themselves. It's
Yeah.
easy to
Yeah.
come out of
Yeah.
it, but we just kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
overthink, and there's so many memes, right? Man's mind,
Yeah.
women's mind,
Yeah.
all these
But
lines, it's on single.
yes, Vanita, I hear you, and I completely understand and agree with that. And but having said that, and taking a cue from what you said about social expectations on women, and seems like world over, across cultures, women seem to bear the brunt of those expectations, largely societal, of being that good girl in the family, being successful today. It has increasingly become competitive also to be a good it's no more like you're a second um, breadwinner. I mean, you're supporting your husband or anything. You are on your own, and that is also becoming a sort of expectation today. So, Dr. Uttara, over to you to understand, how do cultural norms and expectations affect the women's ability to set boundaries? Because even if she wanted to, you keep hearing these things from your neighbors, your uh, the mothers in your kids' school have their own groups and what they chat, and so much is happening today. And news travels faster, and it's all there in your phone, and you keep juggling these expectations. What is your take on that? How does it actually today affect? I'm sure you have a lot of people coming to you with those
Yes.
struggles.
Yes, ma'am. The thing is, like how Sandhya ma'am was saying, it's not just about the mythological stage. We're still having issues right from childhood. When a girl child is born, she's been set to have some boundaries. Like you cannot have that boundary. That is the boundary that they set. You cannot have any boundaries. You're not supposed to say no. If the girl says, "Mama, I'm sick. I cannot do house chores," She's made to do it. If it's a boy, he's been given that privilege. That's the kind of difference that still happens in many, many, many households. So, right from the very young age, right from very, very small, right from that age of teenage itself, the girls, they are supposed to be in a stage where they are not given to have the privilege to set boundaries. They are not led to set boundaries. So as they grow up, even when they want to ask out, yes, as Manita ma'am was saying, if we ask for help, yes, they would comment. It's okay. At least our things are getting done. But unlike that, we are never even set to allowed to ask what we want in life or what we want. The boundaries that is set, that is really beyond us. That's something that's beyond us. And moreover, there are two types of boundaries. One is hard boundary and the other is soft boundary. Hard boundary is something that's non-negotiable. Women don't even understand what is non-negotiable, what is negotiable, where they can negotiate, where they want to set that boundary straight. That difference, we don't even get to choose. We don't even get to understand the difference. Women, if she's, and as ma'am was saying, see, we cannot give reasons to set boundaries. We cannot, while if a man goes out, he says, I'm going out, even to the company. He doesn't give reasons. He doesn't give, this is the reason, that is the reason, my wife is sick or that. This, no, he just says, I have work, I'm going out, I'm taking a day off. But if it's a woman, she is expected to answer a lot of questions. Where are you going? Why are you taking the day off? What are you up to? So all these kind of questions, it's been asked only to the women, not to the men. See, again, the boundaries, even if she wants to set a boundary there, saying that this is my personal life, I don't have to reveal everything. It doesn't happen. She has to answer to a lot of people. It's something that's been happening for centuries and it has not changed yet. It's going through a little bit of change with a lot of feministic perspectives that coming into picture and men trying to understand, specifically boys and women of this generation raising boys who can be more open-minded, who can understand, okay, this is what women wants and they need that freedom. See, till now we say that I see men telling me, I give my wife freedom. What is that to give freedom? What is that to give? It's her freedom. It's hers. But men use this term, I give my wife freedom. So that's the kind of thing we still are up to. We are still going through that phase.
That's true. That's true.
It is not changed. And when we go out, we have to ask permission to mother-in-law, to the husband, to whoever it is, even to the kids, we have to beg. Yeah, I'm going out. I have to go out with my friends. I'm going out to the parlor. I'm going out here, there. Where is the boundary? We are literally begging for our own me time. It's something that's very casual for men. They don't have to beg. They don't have to ask. They just inform. I'm going here. This I'm just going here. It's my work. I'm just going. They just inform. So these kind of boundaries we have to take it. We have to set that boundary. Right from the childhood, we have been taught not to set boundaries. But at one point, they expect us to say it out loud, ask for help. Once we ask for help, they say it again. But as ma'am was saying, at least our work is getting done. That is how we should see. Our work is getting done. It's not about just the boundaries or asking for help. At least, ultimately, the goal is to get the work done. Whether it's taking care of the child or getting a leave, whatever it is, the work getting done.
Yes, I agree, Dr. Rudra. Definitely, it's tougher for women to set those boundaries by themselves. But having said that, we do have a little bit of that, maybe it's the generational shift, and there is conversations and there is examples around that you see of women making it big, maybe taking inspirations from the privileged, and seeing how they do it, and role models, and how they do it, and then doing so. But still, do you think, and I leave it to one of you to answer, maybe Vanita, you could start, uh, the guilt of, especially if you have to do it with your family or your friends, or you're setting a, or the fact that you have probably said a no in a place where you could have probably, gotten ahead at work. We don't know. Maybe it's a no to a project which you can't do because of some personal commitment, but there is guilt all over the place. We know that, right? Even if you say a no, even if you set that boundary, how do you deal with that? I mean, it's always that opportunity lost, or you look at it as something that you missed. And yeah, how do you, I'm sure you get that question.
So It comes with time, really, and it comes also with becoming, I think, a little bit selfish, right? At the end of the day, if you're not thinking about yourself, nobody else is going to think of you for you, right? I always say this, that when you get married and when you move out of your mother's house, that time you have to start thinking about yourself a bit. And there are two parts to what you said, right? Guilt is one part that I think women nowadays are at least accepting that there is guilt. Earlier there was a guilt which you kept on trying to do both things to the best of your knowledge, but at least people
Yeah.
are now acknowledging, the women acknowledge
That's a
that you
that's
feel
a great
guilty.
way
And
of looking at it.
now if you acknowledge, you get help also. And sometimes I mean, from what I see, maybe one generation before, we are in that unique situation that we are educated, we are working, and yet we have not broken free of that barrier,
Yeah.
like our
Yes.
mothers never tried to, maybe, right? um, for me now, because we have acceptance that there is guilt somewhere, we talk more. Our husbands and our friends, we have more avenues to talk. So guilt part is slowly getting better. For I mean, but it doesn't happen immediately. I think with more maturity, when you're 30, 35, when you've struggled a little bit with, do I want to leave my child alone? Do I want to say no to some things that my kids love, but I don't have time? I think 30, 35 is the age when you start really respecting, your own wishes and your own wants, and you start pushing back a bit. Good thing is that at least in our generation, now there are more people you can talk to, and there is more support. On missing out on opportunities, that's something that I think it's very, very hard to get over. I mean, you have to accept that. That's another thing which affects your mental state. And I'll give you a very small example, right? I have a friend who got married at a very early age, 23 or so. I mean, not early, but not the time that she could do
Yeah,
a
yeah.
job for a long time. And wherever her husband went, she kept switching her jobs. She couldn't stay in a job for long. Then finally she started to do something of her own, and she took a long break. And if she looks at some of the colleagues, sorry, her batchmates from college, they are way better settled than she is. And then she feels that time and again, and every time I see, she's trying to match up to what some of our best friends and batchmates have risen to today, right? That's for me a harder thing. It needs a bit of forgiveness and acceptance, but that I've seen is harder for people to get over with, because you are reminded of that every time. Guilt, sometimes you can convince yourself and let it, you kind of let it go. But this, having missed out on things because I married early, I had two kids instead of one, or I had three kids instead of
The
two,
regrets.
and I moved to the US because my husband wanted me to. These things don't go away long. And really, this is where a lot of women need a lot of psychological help, that you have to be happy in what you have today. What you've missed is gone. You can't turn the clock. But be happy with what you have, and then maybe do more if you can now. And that's why giving support to some of the people returning, some of the women returning to work, is very, very important. But that's my thought, Sandhya. Dr. Uttara, if you want to add, please.
So, I mean, I'd like to start by saying that I think it's very important to understand that we have different we have women and of course men in different life stages in the organization, right? And a lot of our conversation, today has been about women who are possibly married, have kids, and those are the challenges we are facing, right? But actually speaking, more than 50% who are in the workforce are those fresh talent who don't necessarily have these challenges. So I'm just going to like cover a couple of points for that audience, because that's something which I keep pushing my team to focus on, that hey, here are the young women in the workforce who are starting out, and if we are able to very early coach them and make them aware enough of what the history is, what the sociology is, what it is that they have been brought up to think, right, about themselves, about their boundaries, then if they're educated enough to understand the challenges that they are likely to face or have faced till then but thought was the norm, that would be a great starting point for them to then negotiate either with the organization, with their family, really stand up to people who are making them feel, stuck in some way or the other, right? And I, love what Vanita said about making peace with with whatever your decisions are. So for me, I think, if I have to like really narrow it down to what are two or three actions, One is we have to educate young girls and women on what is okay, what is not okay, and why they have been brought up the way they have been able to, and give them tools and the words to kind of really negotiate their way out of the
Absolutely.
system. Because that's where I see girls and women really struggling. They don't know what to say to the person
Yeah.
who is unable to see it. And the more and more we talk about it, right? And of course, feminism and that movement is like one venue through which all of this is really coming into light. That's when we'll be able to help. Talking, in fact, I would love to see a day when gender studies is a mandatory part of the school curriculum, because it needs to start from there so that both boys
Absolutely.
and girls are aware of, hey, we've been living in a world which has really not necessarily been equal, but how do we make the scales equal, right? So that's, I think, one very important thing. Two, I think with the whole, with, you know, one of the experiences that I'd like to, or examples I'd like to share on how I prioritize my time, right? And that was one of the questions, like deviating a little bit, but just to share a very
No, no,
practical.
absolutely important.
I do my best work early in the morning, okay? And if you ask me to do anything like super creative or productive, say after 6 p.m., believe me, I'm a goner. And you know, you're not going to get the best version of me, right? And I've worked in global organizations throughout my life. So I think the most important thing to do is, as I said, every organization is looking at competency and productivity of an individual, irrespective of gender, right? So, what an organization expects you to do is to bring your best self into work, right, every day. And what is the value you are adding, right, with regards to what the job that you're performing. So as long as you're able to establish that in various ways in the time that you are available, believe me, I have seen enough, you know, men and women progress irrespective of the time that they clock, you know, that they clock in. So, then there are situations where I'm very clear about saying, hey guys, you know what, this is my work time, I put in X number of hours. At the same time, I'm perfectly comfortable, you know, spending those 3 or 4 hours during very important, you know, initiatives over the weekend, making up for that thing, or doing my thinking work and prioritizing it. So again, right, it's really a choice you're making at that point of time, and the value that you bring to the table. The organization really doesn't, the company doesn't care if you're a
Yes,
guy or a
yes.
girl, right? The company cares about, are
The
you super
performance.
productive enough, are you
Yeah.
performing, do you have potential, and can you help the whole thing, whole organization.
I think basically we are asking girls to take control, and that's exactly what we want them to do. And how is the question. So before I go to you, Dr. Rutra, I would like to tell our audience to be ready with your questions. You can always post it on the chat window, and we can definitely, address them. Today, I'm sure our panelists here would love to hear from you. But Dr. Rutra, to you specifically, because again, Sandhya mentioned about words that we have to teach women, right? We really want, everybody knows that this is somewhere there in the picture. It's personal experience. Every day they come across and they're like, what do I do? Maybe there is inspiration, but what is that practical word that I use when the situation comes? Any thoughts on that? What do you tell your, people who come to you for counseling? What do you tell them if that's a question they ask? Yes.
Instead of seeing it as guilt, I suggest them to see it as priority. So there are set of priority when it comes to work. That is your priority. When it comes to family, see it as priority, prioritize it. So instead of seeing it as guilt, oh, I'm not spending quality time with my family, or I'm not earning enough, or I'm not giving full potential on my job, just see it as, okay, this time, this is the priority. I'm giving this particular time, this schedule is for family time. This is scheduled for work. So that's the priority that they have to set. Instead of seeing it with the eyes of guilt, see it as a priority. And moreover, when there is a necessity to give your potential, full potential, you can do it only without guilt. So if you're hanging up thinking about, oh, I'm not, I feel half-minded, or I'm not fully here. If your presence is not fully there, you will not be able to concentrate. Your best shot will not be there, neither here nor there. So at least concentrate and prioritize in one state, finish that work, and go on to the next. If it's during work time, don't think about the family. Do there, finish your work ASAP at the most best way possible, quickly, or much with full potential. Give it your best instead of thinking about the family. And I have seen women who say that when in office, they think about family. When they go back home, they think about office. So what is the point? I keep asking them. So if you're at office and also use technology to your best, you have your mobile phones with you. You can just video call your parents and or your in-laws and ask them to show the child. You can talk to your husband anytime. Just one WhatsApp message is enough. So use technology for our convenience. We can also do that. So you don't feel guilt that whether your child has eaten or not, whether you have done your work or not, you have to strike that balance. And it is all up to us to strike that balance. Yeah.
I will just add one more thing, right? This is to the point that I was saying earlier on overthinking. If we don't declutter our brains and, like I said, live at the moment, do what you are, disassociate ourselves from other things, that's where that decluttering will happen. Else we will try to do too many things at the same time, not finishing off one thing and thinking about what's to do next, then doing the next and thinking, oh my god, what is the miss that I have done in the first one. I think that's where women really need to learn. If you take men, right, if they're even reading the newspaper, I think they've closed their ears and mind and everything and just reading the paper. When we are reading the newspaper, we are like, okay, switch off the gas, can you switch off the fan? We're still doing. I mean,
How
so
do you
we have
get
to
rid of that?
we have to get used. We have to
Personally,
understand that.
Concentration.
Yeah, I think something, and maybe Dr. Uttara, you know this as a part of a women's psyche, right? We have this thing to try and do more, and we are also very happy with the praise. Sometimes we're trying to do multitask because at the back of our mind we're thinking, if you try to do a lot of things, everybody will praise, and somehow we are going after that praise. I don't think we
ah,
need endorsement from anybody as to that self confidence and
Acknowledgement.
yeah,
Yeah.
encouragement is enough. I mean, I don't
Acknowledgement
even need
part that
that,
we
right?
keep
I'm
on
saying,
seeking.
don't even give me that. I'm doing what I need to do. I'm good at what I do. You have to do your part, and I'm not looking for your, either
Approval.
endorsement or your good words coming my way, saying, "Oh no, wow, she cooks great. Oh, she's does a lot of puja. She does a lot of takes good care of her son." Why? I mean, why? You don't need that.
mm.
You will try to raise a little bit more to those expectations and search for those good words. Really, it's going to just make your life difficult. So start compartmentalizing everything that you want to do.
Super. I want to do a small experiment here. This is not something I've prepared for, so please help me out in this whole exercise that we would. I don't see questions coming in yet, so I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to probably get some words out of all of you. If you each can say a situation, typical situation in which a woman finds it hard to set boundaries, and if one of us can react in the way we should, actually, that'll help us set that boundary. Can we do that a little bit here so that we demonstrate what we're talking about, so the audience also has some context and understands, okay, what exactly. I love that usage that you did, Sandhya, of actually teaching them the words. Let's just teach them the words. So if we can just indulge in a little bit of that role play here. If anybody has a
I can,
situation, typically,
yeah, I
yes,
can do it
thank you,
right
thank
now. I
you.
mean, we were just shopping for something, and probably that guy is calling me because he's there for delivery. I specifically told him between 4 and 5, don't call me, but he's still calling me right now. And my instinct is to pick up, and I'm kind of not trying to do that. But
Not.
so there's something that you might suggest
Awesome.
as to how to push back and say, I told you not to call me, and I'll talk to you only at 5.
Thank you. That was such a live example. And we got the explanation to what was happening right there. Thank you, Manita, for that context and amazing pushback. I mean, that's really hard to resist because you feel like, they will go away with the package and then you will have to call them back tomorrow and then all that mess. Thank you. That's great. Anything, Sandhya, that you not so live, maybe something very generic is also great. But if something comes up to your mind, that would be
Uh,
good.
I think at least we've been in situations, and since I'm the person like I'm from HR and from an organization, we do have a lot of doubts that managers who are well-intentioned managers, both men and women, have with regards to giving a very complex assignment, or say maybe an international opportunity for a woman. Many women don't even know that these opportunities are coming up, because the automatic assumption is that, hey, if I share it with her, she's not going to want it because she may have other responsibilities. So in fact, we're seeing a whole crop. I mean, in fact, every time I say, hey, I have a woman specific program, I'm very mindful about it, because women don't like it anymore in the workplace. Like, hey, don't single me out and don't make me feel as if you're giving me these opportunities because of my gender. I mean, there are many organizations, many women who've been in the system long enough to like feel that way. So very real example, which is true. And men are actually well intentioned. Okay, they are probably seeing families, struggle. Most men are well. Some people, of course, come with
Yes,
their
of
own
course.
biases
Yes.
and life experiences. So that's a very typical example. And then my team and I have to like sit them down. I have some really bright young women in my team who kind of give their own example and say, hey, I'm in office, I'm here all the time, and I would love to see those opportunities come by. So I think giving a lot of personal examples, live examples of what works, what does not work, and making people conscious of the fact that as humans, right, all of us have biases, right? Again, coming back to what we were talking about, the psyche of men and women. If men are like super focused and women, are constantly parallel processing, whether we like it or not, a lot of it is biology. And that's why I say understanding the science and the psychology of it, and then how to deal it, is going to help you give those words. You cannot change certain fundamental parts of nature, but
Absolutely.
those are the skills which are actually speaking, helping you really do very well. And today we need
Yes.
managers and leaders with the so-called
Em-
feminine skills of being able to
yes.
multitask, of being a little bit more caring and nurturing, of
Empathetic.
being able to see the
Yes.
bigger picture, right? Rather than, kind of being. So we need to figure out how to talk more about whatever comes naturally to
Absolutely.
us, how are we leveraging it than anything else.
Absolutely. I think it has to become common conversations. It has to
Exactly.
become very, very, commonplace, basically. So great. Uttara, coming to you, coming from, again, the fact that you do counsel, and I'm going to take the example of a very, very common thing that we've heard for generations, and it still continues. How do you say no to your in-laws? Like, if they really ask you to prioritize something, there is a meeting, it's been there, like you have to go out for that big conference in your organization, and you're probably even conducting it, or you're part of it in a big way, but there is the mother-in-law or the father-in-law, for that matter, who comes in and says no, but there is this something that is happening at the house, and how can you do this? How do you say that no to them
You
without,
just have to
again?
start with, I feel like my privacy is being violated because I have these priorities and I have this meeting that I have to attend. You can start with small stuff like, I feel this way. I feel like that. And I need this. I like to do this. I would like to do this. I will finish this off and then I will get back to you. This is something that's where we set the boundary. It has to be set in the very beginning, not after
Mm.
several years. So this is something that the elders cannot bear. If you suddenly start speaking against them, they suddenly feel like, oh, she changed. No, don't take it on to the later. Just do it
Mm.
right there, right in the beginning. Set the boundaries right in the beginning. Set your priorities. Say that work is important for me, and I feel like it is important for me, and this establishment, it creates an identity for me, and I feel valued if I do this. See, again, we will have to explain everything to them. See, that's another thing. While a man is not in a position to explain,
Mm.
he doesn't have
Yes,
to
yes.
explain anything, whether it's a meeting or anything. He just says, I have to go. That is all. While it comes to women, we have to explain. But still, if it works, it works. As Vanita ma'am said, at least our work is getting done. That is what we should see. Instead of thinking about, oh, why should I ask help or why should I explain to them, we can just try to explain and set the boundary. They might not understand why we prioritize work. Maybe we can tell them, oh, this is the reason, this gives me an identity, this gives me a purpose for life, or this is what I really like to do. So let me do it. I'm there. I'll come to the I'll come back to the family. I'll just start
Mm.
doing all those chores. I'll get back to the family works. Just give me this time. This this is also a priority that I have. This is also something that I love to do. So starting with a little bit of, I feel like this, and I feel I really like this thing, and I
Explain
feel
yourself,
uncomfortable
yes.
if I'm being trapped, saying I cannot do this. I feel trapped, and that suffocates me. So we can use terms like these to make them understand how we exactly feel, instead of just saying no, instead of crying. So crying never helps there. At least they don't understand why you're crying. All they will say is, oh, you're being so dramatic, she cries for everything. No, there is no point in crying. Rather, we should
Basically
try to
explaining
understand and
how you feel. Yeah.
make them understand what is the main issue there. So they might try to, if they are empathetic, they will understand. So that's
I think,
another
yeah,
perspective.
I think what you said is right. You set the expectation right from the beginning and not like suddenly change or, show that you suddenly have other priorities. But yeah, got the point there. I think we'll take this question from one of our audiences. Janani here is talking about, um, she says, we are talking about equitability
Equitability.
rather than equality because men and women are not equal because they're not meant to be equal, which is what we've, I think, touched upon there in the biology part. However, the comparison never seems to cease across gender. Don't you think even the equity checks we do at home or work is more about feeling like equals? In short, what are the effective steps to ensure both are on par without having to pit one against the other? I think it's coming from a place of, you know, deep personal experience. So, Sandhya or Vanita or anybody, Uttara, if you can just touch upon.
Just a small, answer to
Hmm.
that. So, to what we were discussing earlier, right? Women have such unique, and men have also, right? But women have such unique things because of which they're actually they cannot be compared to men in
Mm.
terms of how they have this empathy, the ability to do multitasking, or how they feel for their kids, or how they are okay to stretch for some of the things that they need, they have to do or they should do, even if it's in the social construct, right? Um, for me, uh, in the office space, right, that becomes a little bit different than in the social space. You can choose to do the in the house. That is why you can choose. Okay, I'll do this more. A man might not do that much, but in the office, how do you? If your KPIs are all common with your colleagues, how do you say that you don't equate us to my male colleagues? There is no, I mean, you can do things better or differently, nobody is questioning you, but the end results are all kind of compared equally. In your personal scenario, home ecosystem, etc., uh, yes, I mean, you can choose and say, okay, I want to divide things because I do this better, I will do this. Maybe your husband is a better cook, let him do cooking. You are better with teaching, maybe you do teaching. But in an office or a corporate construct where everybody is measured with performance and KPIs, it becomes equitable. My take is, and then Sandhya and Uttara, maybe you have a different answer.
Yeah, so I think there are like, and I can talk about a home scenario here. Let me flip that from the organization part that I've been talking about. I think it's very important that each one of us actually behave like, what can I say, responsible and empathetic individuals to anybody that we interact with, right? So whether you're at home, whether whoever is observing you, whether you're interacting with the ecosystem, someone, guests who come home, the delivery person, a waiter at a restaurant, the respect that you give that person, the basic respect with which you operate, and the fact that either your parents or your kids or whoever you live with is able to observe that you treat everybody irrespective of where they come from is a great example of just treating everybody equal. Right? It starts with you. You start treating people equally, and then people recognize you as a person who displays that behavior and will give you that same behavior back. I think that's what it is, right? If I think that's the fundamental principle. You get treated the way in which you treat other people. The minute you are, if you're still stuck in your own biases and you have different treatment for different people, then you will also be like treated differently. The second part is at some point of time, and we talked about this, we talked about this a little bit. I think we are in 2024. Okay, let's all be real. We have unlimited access to information. And there is this dialogue in Dear Zindagi, if you have watched this interaction between Alia Bhatt and Shah Rukh Khan, where she says, "Log kya kahenge?" And then he'll be like, who are these people who are walking with you all the time, like judging you? I mean, at the end of the day, again, it's about you and your inner circle of people who really mean and impact your life in any way possible, that you are accountable to. And there is always a give and take on what is okay and what is not okay. But as long as we are able to be true to who we are in any situation, right? I think we'll be able to create a more equitable world for
Yes,
everybody. Yeah.
yes. Definitely moving from that gender perspective to being that person that you are and making it a little more neutral about, whoever you are is what will get reflected. Great point there, Sandhya. And Uttara, I just wanted to understand, since we've been talking about these things and a bit of generational shifts we are seeing, hope that, I mean, would really like to understand who are these people who come to you with problems of stress. We are very, very focused on mental well-being, and when we're talking about women. So, which is the generation that is really feeling the stress? Of course, there is this dimension of who also feels free to come to a counselor. Of course, it's you wouldn't find a certain generation finding it easy to come to a mental health consultant. But even so, we would really like to understand which is this generation that's feeling the stress more, and is it the Gen Zs? Are they able to take it in a much better way? I mean, given what we see around, I'm assuming that's the case. But over to you for that
So it's
to give us
mostly
some
from the
understanding.
late 80s born. Late 80s born, I feel that they are too stressed. They are not able to handle what has happened right from their childhood. Maybe the strict parents. Now the parents, they becoming the parents, they are again getting taunts from their children. They are being taunted by their parents, and now they are taunted by their children. They are in the middle, always getting all these yellings and scoldings from parents, all as well as from their children. It's how it is because of the gentle parenting things. So this and if you see, it's because of I read this somewhere that said women are raised and women are taught to be more independent and empowered, while the same generation, the men are not being taught how to understand or how to embrace the women who is independent, who are more empowered. So that is the problem and the issue that we are currently facing. As a generation, we are able to see maybe when during our parents or grandparents' time, women were staying at home, they didn't go for work. Then the next generation, our parents, they started going for work. At least they had some sort of balance, though they were also, even if you ask your own mom who if at all she was working, she would be like, oh, I had so much of work, I didn't have this support. At least they had some sort of
Mhm.
support back then. Now, if we ask for support, immediately even the society judges, oh, your parents worked so hard for you, and now you're asking them to work for your kids. Why don't you hire a nanny? Why don't you do that? See, that's how much we are being judged. This generation, the 90s kids and the late 80s born are judged so much. We cannot, if we
The
hire a nanny,
millennials,
immediately,
basically. Yes.
yes, millennials.
Great.
They are being judged. If we hire a nanny, again, it's like, oh, you can afford for a nanny. There was this guy, a husband, asking his wife when they came for counseling. He asked her, so she wants to go to work and pay someone else to take care of the child. So why is she even going for that work? She can just be at home instead of paying her, instead
Anything
of
you do
getting that amount
is,
from the company. So this
yes.
was the question that he asked. He was like, okay. See, all these
But
kind. Yes.
yeah, definitely. I mean, we get it. Whatever you do is wrong, and But why should it matter to you? Is the question that Sandhya and probably Vanita are asking. It shouldn't bother you anymore because you have your priorities in your mind, very right. And I see that there are questions coming up, but since we are sort of running out of time, I would really leave it to the speakers to say if you would like to take a couple of them? Yeah. Okay. Quickly, Harshini is asking, how can we encourage more open conversations about mental health among women, especially in spaces where it has traditionally been stigmatized? I think it's coming from some of our comments here. Yeah, over to you, Sandhya.
So I think there are two audiences, right, for this, for the conversations on mental health, right? So one is your conversations that you have at home, and of course the other is the conversations that you have at the workplace, right? These are the two scenarios where you need to have the conversations. Now, the way in which you can encourage conversations at home is actually by having a conversation, and it's by sharing stories, by sharing experiences, depending on, of course, your audience, right? So we have parents who are super progressive, who have probably already spoken to you about it. You have kids probably who are already exposed to some things and they are
Yes.
curious enough. So having those very honest conversations after understanding the subject yourself, because here is where I find that everybody struggles. They don't know what they are talking about. When we talk about mental health, the immediate association is with, something drastically wrong with you, and these, any help that you take means there's something very, very wrong, whereas we'll just like pop pills like crazy for a BP or a sugar or anything else. But the minute you say you have to go to a mental health professional, then there's like, oh my God, I can't do anything about it, right? So I think having those healthy conversations with certain examples after educating yourself with people at home is very important. If you are at the workplace, I think it's very easy to really see who is distressed or not necessarily with a mental health issue, because today's life is super stressful period, right? I mean, I've been working for 23 years. So when I started out, in the early 2000s to now, the whole world has changed. So I absolutely empathize with all professionals, young women, young parents who are there. The world is very different and very, very stressful, right? So the minute you think that you need help or you're in a situation that you're not able to, I'll encourage you to speak to your manager. I'll encourage you to speak even to somebody that you trust within the organization, whether it's your HR partner, mentor, colleague, or go to a professional, because today we have a lot of really qualified professionals. We are in the company of Dr. Uttara too, who can help you through it without stigmatizing itself in your own mind, right? I think that's very important. So having those conversations, hearing those stories, listening to how people have been able to get past it with the right help is the only way through which we can like destigmatize it, because there's no switch you can flip on and suddenly everybody is okay with this. It's a journey. And it starts with understanding that, acknowledging that, yes, it's, all of us are humans made of certain components. And if there is something which is, we are living in a very tough world and it's okay to seek for help, talk about those experiences and help each other. And I think even if each woman sitting here in the call goes back tomorrow, just has that one conversation with one person anywhere in her ecosystem, I would consider that a win, right? More than anything
Awesome.
else.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely, Sandhya. Yes. Vanita, any points there?
No, I think Sandhya
It's
was just
covered.
kind of
Yeah,
reiterating
yeah.
some of these points we discussed earlier. I mean,
Yeah.
really, there is no ego. We can make world a happier place, a more content place, by not, you know, shying away or not thinking, oh, I will be judged if I ask for help or if I don't perform. Um, we can take a lead in doing things the right way, not being, how do I say, small minded about asking help and not feeling guilty. It's a
Yeah.
good opportunity. We have all the support in the system. If we do things right, we set the right example and precedent for our
Yeah.
next generations to come.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, just taking help from others and not feeling bad about it, or even shying away from it, or having an ego, letting go of that, I think will serve us well in the long run.
Yeah. So I see the last question. I'm going to turn it around and ask each of you to actually teach us a new word which sets that boundary. In your experience, I'm sure each of you have many, many words, but in a typical family environment, what do you give us two words if you can, one for the family environment and which is safe, but at the same time sets the boundary very clearly. In what is that magical way of saying it also? If each of you could just enlighten us with one or two.
I think sometimes when I'm pushing back on, watching TV, the what I want to watch and not seeing what my husband or my son.
Very important.
I just say that me time. I was like me time. Just if I'm reading, if I'm sitting in the balcony, don't want to talk, me time. That's a common for me to use. This is my me time.
So
I get joked about it as well, but for me, this is one
I
important word.
think what you're trying to say is there is a code word that your family knows you use to say that this is it, don't
Right
come
now, I'm
beyond
not
that.
compromising. This is what I'm doing because
Yeah,
this is what I want to do.
awesome. So have your code word very clear, and it doesn't have to be something that is, you don't have to explain every time. You just use the word and they know what you mean. Great, awesome. I think that is a great way to do it. Dr. Uttara, if you can
Yes.
do.
So it could be more about, first of all, we need to give ourselves the permission to have self-love,
No, if
that
you
me
can
time.
If you can tell us one word that a woman today, whoever is
Um,
listening, if you can say one word that they can start using in their lives to say that no, this is, for example, if there is just too much work being dumped on them at office by their bosses and they're not able to say no, how do they say it? If they can use a
Instead of saying
phrase
the
or
direct no and getting the wrath of the co-workers or even the family members, I would actually suggest them to, give a diversion. Instead of saying direct no's, we can just offer some sort of help without feeling guilty. We can just use some other tool that can help them. So if they are asking you to cook and you're not in the mood to cook, don't say that I don't want to cook. Say that, okay, I'll just order it in Swiggy or I will just order it in
I think
Zomato or
many of us do that already,
this is
if I'm
how,
not
so
mistaken.
we are setting our boundaries there.
Yeah,
It's how
yeah.
it can come off like we are being manipulative, but instead of directly saying no, I think this is how we have to establish, because throughout the generation saying no has never been taken as a good thing by women.
Yes, yes.
So we
So
have to do it
basically, yeah,
in a way
absolutely.
where we are
Offering a
pushing
solution while
and
saying
not
no is a
yes.
great way to say a no. Great. Sandhya, anything that you could think of which you can tell us that you have been using?
Hey, there are there's just days where I just stomp my foot, okay? So I can't tell you that these are words. Then it's perfectly okay to say, ask people to go take a hike, go think about what they're and go do your thing. Right? We are all not these
Actions
perfect
speak
people.
louder than words.
Yeah, certain actions just like that's okay to throw a tantrum and say that this is not okay, as long as you know how to like deal with it, deal with the repercussions and not get
Repercussions. Absolutely.
very
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I hope you had fun too. Talking at this Diversity Mahotsav session, day six. That's what it was. Thank you so much, Sandhya, Vanita, and Dr. Rudra. It was fun for me bringing this to the audience today. Any buys before you want to wrap it up quickly, and then we can call it a day.
Thank you, Rashmi. That's very nice of you to have us. And for people who are listening in, if you have further questions, if you want to connect, feel free to do it on our LinkedIn, on this forum, right? I mean, very happy to help. Like Sandhya was saying, even if one person changes his or her way of doing things because of this session, it's a win for us. So thank you for your patience and thank you for having us, Rashmi.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Anita. Thank you so much. And as we wrap up, I would like to thank our dear audience for such a wonderful participation today, very patiently asking those questions. And tomorrow we will meet you again for another interesting session. It's called Pride and Beyond. You have me at hello. Conversations that matter. This session aims to inspire attendees to take the first step to say hello and create ripples of change through genuine dialogue. We have Kamini Sahani, Senior Director, Reinsurance Operations, Client and Customer Services from Marsh McLean Global Services India, and Harish Redipalli of KPMG India in conversation with Anjuji Parvati, VP Research and Solutions at Avtar Group. As we draw close to the day, I'm going to request you all to take a couple of minutes to provide your feedback on today's session. I request you to please bring up the poll. And if you can rate us overall, that would be great. Please do take your precious time out, a couple of minutes to fill in those questions and the feedback. And please do visit and register at myavtar.com to explore various opportunities to apply for jobs that suit your skill sets, read articles of interest, upskill yourself through various webinars conducted exclusively for you. That's myavtar.com. And our social media hashtags are hashtag diversity mahotsav, hashtag celebrating diversity. Do post your experience at Diversity Mahotsav on your SM channels with these hashtags. And Diversity Mahotsav will be aired between December 2nd to 20th, only on weekdays between 4 and 5 p.m. We thank our partners, Innovation Catalyst, EPAM Systems, and supporting partners, CRISIL, Genesis, and Zuchi Systems. This is Rashmi Ravindran signing off. Take care and stay safe. Thank you.